Hi, I'm Brad Lucy and welcome to Culture Crazy's video channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up your Popset Yogurt Starter Kit. This is incredibly easy and really simple, and I'm really not sure why more people don't do it. But congratulations on purchasing it and getting into them. Today for the demonstration I'm going to be using Villi. However, this same method applies for all of our Popset yogurt range. The only difference between them all is the microbes and bacteria levels in them, but the process is exactly the same for all of them. So to begin, really simple. We've got our little culture pot that's arrived inside one of our little Culture Crazy cups. The cups are of course used for insulation during post and to stop it from being crushed. We need milk. This is just a supermarket brand of milk. Don't use raw milk. See our video rant for that one. It is really important for all culturing that you use a sterile medium, and this is because you want control over the cultures in the long term. If you use raw milk, you lose that control and you're introducing all sorts of unwanted bacteria and microbes into your mix. You don't want that, so just use any store-bought milk is fine. You can use powdered milk, you can use UHT milk, these are all absolutely fine. Don't recommend using skim milk simply because without the fats in it, the cultures have a very hard time actually forming properly. So don't use skim milk, but you can use light milks. Any milk is fine. You can use goats, sheep, cow. I don't recommend using soy, rice or almond milk or anything for these. It just won't set properly. I do have a couple of cultures that do set these, but I'll show you those later on. So to begin, you've got your culture. It probably won't look like this. It's nice and white and fairly firm still. After a couple of days of travel, or even me just shaking it about stimulating what it's going through, it will separate and look a bit manky and you'll be thinking, oh, I don't want to eat that. And don't worry, you're not. This is just the culture starter. So, very simply, tip your culture starter into a clean jar or glass. Now, I prefer to do just small batches and then freezing up the excess so that I've got plenty on hand. Obviously I need to stock it, so I make these batches daily. However, you can just do one small batch, freeze it, pull it out in 6 months time, you'll be fine. So, add the culture to the jar, 3/4 fill it with milk, give that a little swirl just to make sure that it's all going through. Don't recommend stirring Villi, Pima, or actually no, not Pima. Don't recommend stirring either Mazzoni or Villi because they string and toughen. You want to keep those nice and stable. That is essentially it. You've added milk to your culture, put a cover over it, set it aside for between 6 or 12 hours. Sometimes up to 24 hours in colder weather, but this really should only take overnight. The next day, you want to go and pop that in the fridge. It'll be nice and set. This is a much larger jar. As you can see, it's all set. This is Villi again. I don't recommend shaking it. That's just to demonstrate to you that that has actually set. Now when it's set, you can pop it in the fridge for between 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days, depending on how cold your fridge is. It will, however, probably start to separate and sour in that time. Now, a lot of people ask me, how can you tell when it's off? And the simple answer is you'll probably never ever come across a batch that's actually off, because the simple fact is you'll want to throw it out long before that because it'll taste foul. All fermented products tend to develop really horrible taste once they've been over-fermented. Now, they're usually perfectly safe at that stage, it's just that they taste horrible. So this one, for example, is 6 days old, and it's a little bit too sour to continue to use as an actual culture base. So we're actually going to be turning this one into our freezer stock. So what we'll be doing is very simple. We'll just be freezing the stock in an ice cube tray, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Okay, so you've got an ice cube tray, nothing special about it, nothing particularly fancy. You've got your culture, and you have a spoon. Now because of the small amount of contact they have with it, you can actually use metal spoons, it's fine. What you want to do, it's about a tablespoon in each cup. Now, Villi and Mazzoni, you know that it's set properly when it slides nicely off the spoon. We just continue to fill these done. So like I said, even though this is a little bit too sour, in fact smelling it, I could probably still use this for something. However, I'm just going to freeze it and keep it as stock, because I actually have 2 more batches in my fridge. So there's not really much point in using one that's not at a premium stage. So, next step is using cling film. I want to cover that over. And you want to use more than 1 wrapping of this. You want to use 2 or 3. And the reason for that is just to prevent freezer burn, which will of course kill the cultures. You just want these to freeze nicely and naturally. You don't want them freezer burn. So a few layers of plastic just prevents this from happening. So there we go, got 2 layers on there, and that'll do for that. You want to label this very clearly with the date and the culture that you've got in there. Then it's just a case of sitting that in the freezer and waiting for it to freeze. Once that's frozen, you want to take it out of the ice cube trays, just twist, pop them out, pop them into a plastic Ziploc bag and return them to the freezer. This way you have a really easy way of reculturing. All you do is take one of the ice cubes, drop it into a glass of milk, cover, let it sit at room temperature for 12 hours, you're done. That's it. Really is simple, really is easy. These are a lot easier than, say, a traditional Greek yogurt or even a Bulgarian yogurt, which both require heat processing for up to 18 hours. This doesn't require any heat, it sets at room temperature because they're just fantastic like that. So, we really do highly recommend that you get into this. This method will work for all of the Popset yogurt range, which includes Pima, Villi, Mazzoni or Caspian Sea yogurt, whichever name you prefer there. Cultured buttermilk and fuel milk. Now most of these cultures are actually fairly similar, particularly Pima, fuel milk and cultured buttermilk. Some people think that they're all the same, but they're slight variations of similar cultures, but they all have slightly different mixes in there, so you do get different tastes from it. Villi and Mazzoni, of course, are traditional in European countries where it's actually a commercial product over there. It's not in Australia for some strange reason. And they both form a slight skin or crust on the top of it, which that's what you actually want to preserve right up until you're eating it, just to prevent it from going stringy and tough. That's it. Once it's set, enjoy or freeze for later use. These will keep in the freezer for 3 to 4 months. We don't recommend keeping it in there for any longer than that. You just want to pull it out, make a new batch, refreeze it again after that point. But they will, at a pinch, you can leave them in there for up to 6 months, but no more than that. I recommend pulling them out every month and reculturing it if you do intend on keeping them in there. It is just a cup of milk after all, so that'll make up a whole new ice cube tray. Continue on your way. So that's it. For great recipes and ways of using your cultures, check out some of our other videos that we'll be posting, and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the new products as well as the new recipes and features that we'll show for these cultures. They are absolutely fantastic and really easy to incorporate into a very healthy diet. So I hope you've learned something today, and I hope you found that really easy to follow. You should have. So I'm Brandon Lucy for Culture Crazy Australia, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to email us at info@culturecrazy.com.au. Thanks for joining us, and happy culturing!